Greetings, YouTube. Recently, my company had an open house. We were looking to fill 20 positions, which is a good thing. We had, over the past 2 years, I think, 4 layoffs, all of which I thankfully survived. And we had the open house ran from, I think, 9 a.m. until 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And to fill those 20 positions, we had over 300 people show up. In fact, they had to close the doors on people because there simply wasn't enough time to bring them all in and talk with them. So there were people that were turned away, and I feel bad about that, but that's the state of the affairs we have here in the United States at the moment. And the state I live in, New Hampshire, has one of the better unemployment rates. I think that we are at 5.6%, as opposed to the rest of the nation, which is at 9.6, I believe. So we're a full 4 points lower than the rest of the nation, and yet we are still getting over 10 people for every available position in the economy. And I think it's important for people to realize that when you get fired, your job is still there. You don't get to do it anymore, but the job opening still exists. Or as Bobcat Goldthwait said, I lost my job. Well, I didn't really lose my job. My job is still there. There's just somebody else doing it. Well, that's what happens when you get fired. And we've had 5 people in my company fired. Sometimes for really good reasons, and sometimes not for such good reasons. But the position that they held still exists. But when you get laid off, through no fault of your own, because the economy turns, the position you had is gone. You're just out of luck. Now, the reason I bring this up, excuse me, itchy nose, is that I've seen quite a bit of judgment on YouTube and on the internet about people that are unemployed. People seem to act as though the unemployed want to be unemployed, and I haven't seen that. In fact, I only know of one case of a person that was unemployed by the economy downturn and didn't go to find a job. And everyone else I know who's been laid off has desperately looked for employment. Every day, all day long, filling out applications and making out resumes and letters of introduction because they want to get hired. Because surviving on unemployment benefits is really, really hard. And if you don't have a roommate that's considerate or a partner, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to lose your apartment, possibly your car, your home. You're going to be moving in with relatives if you've got that option. Being unemployed is not the same thing as being fired. There's no moral judgment by being laid off. It just happens. I've also seen people say things like, well, they just need to move where their work is. Okay, fine. Would you be willing to abandon all your family and friends? Pick up and go. And when did you make that decision? Did you make that decision the day you got laid off? So when you still have resources to make that move? Or 6 months down the line when you realize, shoot, there's nothing around here. I got to go someplace else. But by that point, you have no resources. You have no down payment for another apartment. You have no ability to get a phone or utilities turned on in a new location. You don't have the ability to just yank your kids out of school and move them country. There are simple answers to complex problems, and those simple answers are always wrong. There's also the concept I've encountered here, which I called Calvinism, which is that people who are in a lower economic bracket are in a lower economic bracket because they deserve it. That people who are in a higher economic bracket are in that economic bracket because they are better, because they are more worthy. They are simply better human beings in all conceivable ways. And that right there is unethical and immoral and, quite frankly, dehumanizing. all humans have equal value. What you do with that life is what matters. And when you get laid off, when you're unemployed, it's not because you are less worthy. It's just what happens sometimes. So I'm really tired of people saying that the unemployed are lazy and shiftless, or that the unemployed deserve it, or that the economic adjustment is all part of capitalism. If throwing people into the streets and leaving some 10 million Americans without a job is all part of the capitalist structure, then we need to fix the capitalist structure. And yes, I am advocating a significant change to a much more equitable welfare state. I am a full-blown socialist in that regard, I guess. But we need to stop saying, you, unemployed person, you're unworthy, because they aren't. They didn't do anything to end up in that position. All the people I worked with who ended up losing their jobs, it wasn't because they were bad. It was because they were usually the last person hired. And you shouldn't be punished for that.